What's the first thing you do when you open your eyes in the morning? Do you make a coffee or look at the newspaper? Or do you roll over to check your social media accounts on your smartphone? And do you feel panicked when you lose your internet connection for even 5 minutes?
You know my life very well, don't you?
Yes.
For many people, staying connected is the very essence of their being. The internet is like a fund of endless possibilities. If you're into online gambling, gaming, or keeping up with social media, you may be an internet addict without even knowing it.
Well, joining us today, we have Dr. Bruce Ballon. He's a psychiatrist who's been specializing in gaming and internet use at the Center for Addiction and Mental Health. And Dr. Ballon, how all the people at home now are thinking, is that me? Is that me? So let's tell them, how do you know if you have an addiction to the internet?
Well, before we even use the word addiction, I like to say, do you have a problem with it? The word addiction conjures up all sorts of different, stereotypes and things. And we can talk about that in a moment. But if you have a problem with it, it's only a problem if it's actually impacting on your life in some negative ways, such as you're missing school, you're missing work, your relationships are suffering, all because of this behavior around the internet. Then you got a problem. Then you can figure out if it's an actually addiction. And an addiction really means you've lost control over the behavior. You're needing more and more of it to get the same effects.
Doctor, I hear this expression a lot, and I'm not sure it even exists, an addictive personality. In other words, if you have that type of personality, you're more likely to run into problems. But doesn't just about everybody have some sort of addictive personality when it comes to things that they like?
Yeah, well, the word addiction is so misused in our society. That's why I like to be careful with it. An addicted personality, what does that actually mean?
Yeah,
we
what
all
does
like
it mean?
Things. What it means is it's a lousy term for a whole garbage bag of different things. Do you love chocolate? Do you love this? Do you love that? I'm more about, again, if you like something and it doesn't cause you problems, it's not really a problem. But lots of people have vulnerabilities to developing certain behavioral problems, but that doesn't mean they have an addiction necessarily.
Okay, so I will use our problem then. So do you think nowadays, the internet, we have kids as early as soon as they can, use their fingers or punching away at mom and dad's iPad or something. The fact that people are starting to get involved with online things at such an early age, is that a greater chance of having a problem when you're older?
It's a problem if we as a society don't start looking at this like a public health issue in the sense of just like we raise kids about healthy eating, healthy everything, where is the health for parents to understand, how do I raise my kid in a technological age? It's here, it's not going away, but are parents taking the time to say, if my kid's going to play with the technology from age 2, what does that mean? How am I going to set limits?
And it's hard because there's no rule book, This is sort of a first generation thing. How do we know what to do? And we don't know what the downfall is if we don't do something.
Well, the interesting thing, of course, is you can always fall back on parenting basics 101, such as what is the responsibility of being a parent? Meaning, I should actually look at what this is, know what it is before I let it into my house, watch what my kids are actually doing. It's not going to solve everything, and even if I said, don't do this or that, parents really need to buy into why is this so. And one of the problems is parents are also overwhelmed with technology as much as the kids are of today. And unless they put themselves into some sort of healthy balance, it's hard for them to raise their kids too.
People talk about different types of highs they get. When I started running, someone said to me, there's this runner's high that you get. Oh, yeah, really? And then I did experience it and went, okay, it's different from having too much alcohol or whatever the case is. This internet compulsion, or as opposed to addiction, can this provide the same type of a high as a drug or as alcohol or as winning and gambling?
Yes, it can, and it's because it's similar. Everything has its nuances, but it's back to the reward pathway systems in our brains that release certain neurochemicals that give you pleasure, excitement, and so on. And if you happen to be able to feel pleasure doing a certain behavior, you want to have more and more of it, perhaps, if you have some vulnerabilities. And so some people play video games and get really, really excited with it. Sometimes they will even, what I'd say, self-medicate in the sense of, if I'm feeling down, I can use the game. If I'm feeling dissociated, I can use the game. If I have attention deficit disorder, I can hype myself up on the game and focus. And so there's all sorts of different similarities. People always think addiction's about putting a substance in your mouth, but often it's more complex than that. It's biological, psychological, social, cultural, all combined. And so, yes, games can do this.
But you know, there's people out there who are pretty adamant about, nope, I don't have a cell phone. Nope, not getting a cell phone. Nope, don't have a Facebook account. No, not going on Twitter. It's almost like they know themselves, and they know if they do that, it's going to be over.
Mm-hmm. Well, and this is good. You know, knowing what you can handle, being able to stay within limits you set, this is great. And then
kind of like not saying I'm not going
it.
to try a drug, or saying I'm not going to have Krispy Kreme donuts in my case, because I know it's going to be a problem once I've had them.
Yeah, and some people it will be problematic, but not for everybody, in the sense that, you know, some people can drink alcohol and don't have an alcohol disorder. Some people can use cannabis, it seems, and they don't go on to get a full-blown dependency on it. Same thing with games. Some people can play it, some people get dependent on it. And that's where, again, where at CAMH we often look at the people who get into real problematic issues with that and kind of find out they have depression, anxiety, or learning disorders, or things that make them vulnerable to getting into more problematic use.
Okay, so I'm sorry, we have run out of time, which is too bad, because I think we could do a whole segment on dependency. That's the right word for it. I like that. Dr. Bruce Ballon from the Center for Addiction and Mental Health. Thanks for your time today.
Thank you.
Thanks, Doctor.
When we come back, now if I had a hunky model as a university professor or teacher or anything, I would never miss a class, Marty.
Did you just hear what the doctor said about addiction, Liz? Instead of listening and learning, you'd be leering and drooling like he was a Chippendales dancer instead of a professor. We'll discuss it next on Square Off.